Wow. Um, Doing lives is so outside of my comfort zone, but I am jumping on because I feel really inspired and I really want to share something. It's been a shift that I've had recently that has been so transformational, and I really want to share this because this is something that anyone can apply to their own life, and it can create such a huge ripple effect throughout their life. This one shift in perspective. So I read somewhere that we have 60,000 thoughts a day. 60,000. And 95% of those thoughts are the exact same thoughts we had the day before and the day before and the day before that. 95% of the thoughts we keep repeating the same thoughts every day, right? And if you were to just change 1% of the 95% of thoughts that you have, if you were to just change 1% of that, your life would completely change. And after learning this, I decided to actually apply this to my own life, right? And I thought about all the repeating thoughts that I have every day. And I thought about what is the one thought that I have, the one repeating thought out of the 95% of the 60 out of the 60,000 thoughts, 95% of that I have a day. What is the one repeating thought that I have every day that holds me back the most? And when I really looked at my life and the thoughts that I have, the thought that I have that holds me back the most is, I can't be bothered. So when my alarm goes off in the morning, I can't be bothered. When I think about doing one of these videos and sharing an insight, I can't be bothered. When I think about doing the dishes, I can't be bothered. When I think about going across the road to the beach, I can't be bothered. It's just like this repeated thought, I can't be bothered, I can't be bothered. And I listen to that thought, and without even realizing, but I think that thought is my own. I believe that to be true, that I can't be bothered. And then I allow that to stop me from taking the actions that I feel so inspired to take, right? And so I have this thought, I can't be bothered, at least 100 times a day. And everybody has this. Everybody has at least one thought, this one thought that you have at least 100 times a day. And I want you to think about this. I want you to think about, what is that one thought that you have 100 times a day that stops you from doing the things that you feel inspired to do? 100 times a day. What, this thought, maybe it's, I'm not good enough. Maybe it's, why bother? Maybe it's, I'm too tired. Maybe it's, I'm not good enough. It's just this repeated thought you have. It's that trigger. It's that trigger that stops you in your tracks from doing something that feels so inspired and so aligned, right? So mine is, I can't be bothered. Now, when I started to realize how much I can't be bothered stops me in my life, how much it holds me back, it stops me from waking up early, it stops me from exercising every day. Listening to this thought and allowing it to control me stops me from meditating every day. It stops me from doing these videos when I feel inspired. It stops me from taking walks. It stops me from seeing my family as much as I'd like to be seeing them. It stops me from putting myself out there and launching these programs that I feel inspired to launch. It stops me from, seeing the friends that I want to see. This one thought stops me so much in my life. And that one thought has held me back for many, many years. And this is the same for everyone. Everyone has that one thought that just keeps coming up again and again, and that stops them from living the life that they truly want to create. So then I asked myself, how would my life be different if I didn't allow that thought to control me? I would be waking up earlier. I'd be exercising every day. I'd be meditating. I'd be going for sunrise walks. I would be, doing these videos more regularly. I would be seeing people more. I would be living a completely different life if I just changed this one thought. I can't be bothered. If I just, it's not even just changing it. It's being more aware of when that thought comes up, and not allowing that thought to dictate my behaviors. And I've started practicing with this, right? Because the thing is, these thoughts, this, I can't be bothered, I'm not good enough, why bother, I'm too tired, whatever your thought is, right? This thought is not even you. This thought is your ego, right? And the primary goal of your ego's job is to keep you safe. It's to keep you safe. It's to stop you from stepping into the unknown. It's stopping you from going outside of your comfort zone, because your safety cannot be guaranteed if you step outside of your comfort zone. Your safety cannot be guaranteed if you step into the unknown. So your ego will pop in with all of these thoughts to ensure that you do not step outside of your comfort zone, that you don't step out into the unknown, that you stay where it's safe. Because as long as you're not exercising, you're not putting yourself out there, you're not doing, like for me, like the I can't be bothered has stopped me from doing videos, because that's keeping me safe, you know, because I'm not allowing myself to be seen and be at risk of judgment or rejection or whatever it is, right? It stops me from getting out of bed in the morning sometimes, because, you know, that's the unknown outside of the bed. Inside the bed, it's safe, you know, nothing can harm me in there if I'm just laying there. So it's the ego that wants to keep us safe. And if you think about like a friend, right? Like if you had a friend that, you know, gave you really bad advice, you know, you came to your friend for some advice and they gave you bad advice, and, you know, you didn't know it was bad advice, but you took action on their advice and then it just ended horribly. Would you go back to that same friend for advice? You probably wouldn't. You'd be like, that friend gives bad advice. I'm not going to go back to that friend for advice, because the last time I took their advice, it didn't go well. That's the ego, right? There has been thousands of times that your ego has given you advice. It's told you something. You've listened to this advice. You've taken action on that, and it's gone horribly wrong. And you keep going back to that ego for advice, and you keep taking it, and it goes horribly wrong. So for me, I've been listening to the advice of I can't be bothered. And I've been acting on that advice by not getting out of bed, by not exercising, by not doing videos. And it's not ending well, because I'm not doing the things that truly light me up. But I keep going back to this friend for this ego for advice that is not good. And so I've been questioning. Rather than instantly listening to the ego and then taking action on that advice, I've been questioning it. And I had this experience of it recently when I made the decision I was going to get up at 4:20 a.m. and I was going to exercise. My alarm went off at 4:20, and my ego, which wants to keep me safe, it immediately came in. Oh, 4:20, it's early, you haven't had enough sleep, you went to bed pretty late, your body's a bit sore from exercising yesterday, you need a rest. If you get up now, you're gonna be really tired by the end of the day, you're not gonna have enough energy for tomorrow. And in the past, I would hear this, right? I would start spiraling, the ego would start spiraling into these thoughts to keep me safe. And I would be like, oh yeah, that's true, I am tired. Yeah, it is really early. Yeah, I didn't get enough sleep. Yeah, I did go to bed late. And I would start buying into this, and then I'd be like, yeah, that's right, I'm going to turn my alarm off, I'm going to go back to sleep, right? But this particular morning, when these thoughts started, I saw it for what it was, right? It's the ego wanting to keep me safe. And I'm like, you know what? In the past, I would have believed this to be true. I would have listened to this and thought it was fact, that it was the truth of my experience. But actually, I'm going to challenge it this morning. It's 4:20. Yes, I've only had like 4 hours sleep, but I'm still going to get up. So I got up and I did my exercise. And I continued to challenge that thought. Every time it would come in, I can't be bothered. I just kept questioning it. Like, that's just my ego wanting to keep me safe. And I continued to, I exercised, and I was feeling really good, and I was feeling energized. And I continued to go through my day questioning that thought that I can't be bothered. Every time it would come in, I would question it, and I would take the action. In the past, I would have believed that thought to be true, and it would stop me from taking action. But now I was like, I'm not going to take this on as truth now. I'm going to take a different action. And for a whole day, I was taking the opposite action to what this can't be bothered statement in the past would have held me back. And by the end of the day, I felt so fulfilled. I'm like, wow, I did everything that I truly wanted to do that in the past, I can't be bothered would have held me back. And then I started realizing, oh my God, what would happen if I went through tomorrow and the day after? If I went through every day not allowing I can't be bothered to hold me back, like how much differently would my life look? And I started thinking about other people. Everybody has these statements, these beliefs that they continue to say to themselves every day that holds them back. What if other people were to start questioning that belief and start realizing that this thing that you're telling yourself, I can't be bothered, I'm not good enough, why bother? is actually not the truth. You've listened to it thinking it's yourself telling yourself the truth, and you're believing it and allowing it to control you, but question it and realize for yourself that it's not true. In the morning, this statement, I can't be bothered, that almost stopped me from getting out of bed and exercising. In the past, I would have believed it, but I felt so energized by the end of the day. That belief that I can't be bothered wasn't true. It wasn't true. And I feel like people need to go through this experience for themselves to actually realize that for themselves, that the belief, that the thing that you tell yourself is not true. And the last thing I want to share on this is I had a really amazing experience of this when if you had asked me in the past if I was an emotional eater, I would have said no. But when I did a 3-day fast, and it was like 2 days into my fast. So I hadn't eaten any food for 2 days by this point, and I had the thought come up, I'm hungry. Now, in the past, when I would have the thought, I'm hungry, I would immediately eat. It's like, oh, okay, I'm hungry. That's the truth. I'm hungry. And I would just eat it. I wouldn't question it. But when I was 2 days into my fast and I got the thought, I'm hungry, because I'm doing a fast, eating wasn't an option. And that created spaciousness for me to actually question this thought rather than immediately acting on it. So when I had the thought, I'm hungry, I checked in with myself and I was like, am I actually hungry? And I felt into myself and I wasn't hungry. There was no part of me that was experiencing any hunger whatsoever. So I'm like, well, I'm not hungry. So why did I have the thought I'm hungry? And so I inquired further. And in that moment, I was just feeling like I think I was lonely at that point and I wanted to eat. Like it wasn't hunger. It was just like wanting to fill a void. And then another time I had the thought I'm hungry, I questioned it again. And in that moment, it was because I was feeling frustrated. And then another time I had the thought I'm hungry and I checked in. I still wasn't hungry. It was because I needed a dopamine hit. Like every time I had the thought I'm hungry, I wasn't actually hungry. It was like something deeper, but I wouldn't have realized that if I wasn't fasting, because when I was fasting, like I said, because eating wasn't an option, I had no choice but to question these thoughts rather than immediately believe them and act on them like I would have any other day of the week if I wasn't fasting. And so it's really made me realize like how we have these thoughts that we think are true, we believe they're true, and we immediately act on them without even questioning them. When in reality, if we actually question them, we realize that they're not true. So me telling myself I can't be bothered 100 times a day, and in the past believing them and allowing that to dictate my entire reality, like to me, it just seems absurd now. It seems absurd. So I want to encourage everybody, like get really clear on what is that one thing that you say to yourself 100 times a day that stops you from doing the things that you want to do in your life. Everyone has that one sentence, and it's usually like 3 or 4 words. 3 or 4 words that you say to yourself 100 times a day that's holds you back. And when you have that thought, like firstly realize that that's not you. That's your ego wanting to keep you safe. And then challenge it. Rather than immediately believe that to be true and then allowing that to dictate your behavior, challenge that thought and take an action opposite to that. And then actually surprise yourself to realize that thought that you've been believing for so long is actually not true, and realize how dramatically your life will transform when you start questioning that belief. Anyway, that's all from me. That's all I really wanted to share. And I just want to say that the only reason this Facebook Live is even possible is because I've been questioning that belief of I can't be bothered and taking the opposite action. So yeah, that's all from me. I'd love to hear if anyone like got anything from that and what it is that you got. And I'd like to also know, what is your 3 to 4 word sentence that you tell yourself 100 times a day that holds you back, and how much different your life will be once you start questioning it. All right, that's all from me.